This is the new Volkswagen Golf. Now, over the years, the models have consistently sat at the top of the family hatchback tree since they first released, well, their first one back in the 70s. Today, though, sadly for Volkswagen, there's a lot more competition than back when Saturday Night Fever was on at the cinema. Now, some of that comes from the other VW group cars like the Audi A3, the Skoda Scala or the Seat Leon that all share parts and engines with the Golf. And then you've also got the VW's latest electric car, the ID.3, which has been muscling its way into the Golf territory. And then there's plenty more after that. So many more actually that you can't remember them all. Here's a list. Now, you may be listening to me talking and looking at the car and thinking, now I know that that's a Golf, but is that the new Golf? And you'd be right to be confused, because I think it's safe to say that the VW designers haven't exactly veered that far off the old design. However, where it may appear similar, VW have crammed in all of the latest interior tech and all of the connectivity features that you could possibly want, and actually probably some that you don't want, but more on that later. Some of the models are more efficient now too, which is thanks to the additional mild hybrid assistance. So as ever, there's nothing dramatically different about the newest Golf, but it is of course a Golf. But is that still enough to cut it in this highly competitive hatchback market? Well, we're going to find out in this in-depth video, but before that, here's a quick reminder to like and subscribe and click the bell button so then you get notifications for all the latest Carbuyer videos. The changes on the outside are minimal, but there's now a sleeker lower nose for the 8th generation Golf with slimmer LED headlights. A pair of new LED lights can also be found at the back. And new badging proudly spells out the car's iconic name across the boot lid. This is the entry-level Life model in optional Atlantic blue metallic paint that costs 625 quid. But buyers will also get 16-inch alloys and front and rear parking sensors as standard. Climbing one step up the ladder and opting for the style trim ups the standard kit list even further, with the R-Line model getting a sportier look. So while the VW design team haven't really broken the mould with the outside of the car, they have been very busy with the interior. Now, one of the biggest departures from the old car is this is now completely digital. You've got two 10-inch screens sat side by side, which gives you this nice ultra-wide display, which is very similar to the new Mercedes A-Class. Now, VW call this setup the InnoVision cockpit, and it comes as standard in every Golf, not just the expensive ones at the top of the range. And as you're driving around and you've got the two screens, the one in front of you and that flows nicely into the touch screen, the infotainment system, it gives you a nice futuristic feel for the driver, which happily is me. And another way that VW have created this minimalistic look is they've got rid of pretty much all of the physical buttons. So you now control the car with either the touch screen or you say, "Hello Volkswagen.
How can I help?"
Which activates the voice command system, which in this car, she sounds just like Olivia Colman. So it's a bit like you're driving around with an Oscar winner, which is quite nice. Now, the setup works okay most of the time, but it does get a little bit frustrating when you want to change the basic things like the volume of music or the climate control when you don't want to use the voice control. You've got to be really specific with the touch screen and the slider rather than pressing an actual button. I know there's other interiors that have done something similar, but they've kept a couple of buttons, and I think that's probably the better way to go. Sometimes a physical button is better. All the swish new tech is very apparent when you sit down, but there are some bits where I do think they've cut corners. It does look nice, it does look modern, but some of this feels a little bit cheap. The materials feel a lot cheaper than you would expect to get in a Golf. It certainly lags behind what you would get in the Audi A3, in the basic Technic trim, even though that's a few hundred quid more. You don't notice that on a monthly payment. And the Seat Leon and Skoda Scala are equally as equipped. Well, they don't cost as much. Every new Golf gets a long list of standard equipment. In this base life spec, you'll find maize cloth upholstery and gloss black interior trim. Practicality is good too, with a 60/40 split folding rear seat and various storage cubbies and cup holders dotted around the interior. It also gets a range of digital connectivity to match the techie screens with sat-nav, Apple CarPlay and Android Auto and USB-C sockets. Amazon Alexa integration is also standard, and a system called Car2X is capable of adjusting your driving route to avoid traffic as it develops. It can even warn you when an emergency services vehicle is approaching. So while the new Golf is slightly longer than the old one, the space in the back for the passengers is about the same, which is fine. Like most hatchbacks, seats 3 people, but let's be honest, it's probably better for 2, because being that person sat in the middle, you don't really know what to do with your legs. You've got this lump in the middle. If you've regularly got 3 people that are sat in the back, you're much better with a Skoda Octavia, because no one likes this. Now, the boot space on offer is similar to that of the old car, 381 litres, which is about the same as the A3 in the BMW 1 Series, but falls short of the 467 litres offered by the Skoda Scala. You can adjust the height of the boot floor or take it out completely for more space, and folding the rear seats opens up 1,237 litres of luggage space. Now, there is one diesel engine available, that's a 2 litre, so you've either got the 113 brake horsepower or the 148 brake horsepower. Now, this is 113 brake horsepower, and it's comfortably the most economical version, but it's also one of the slowest of the entire engine range. Oh, it's nice and quiet, the pulling power's pretty good, it's nice and comfortable as you're cruising along on the motorway, even if you do occasionally dream of having the slightly more powerful, more expensive version. Now, handling is another department where the Golf is mildly different to the old one. It's a slight improvement from the old Golf, which was always nice to drive in itself. It's very agile around corners, it's less body roll, the steering is more responsive. The trade-off is that it's a slightly less refined ride than the old one. It's only a small trade-off with the improvements. So this 2 litre turbocharged diesel engine has 113 brake horsepower, can do 0 to 62 in 10.2 seconds, has a 6-speed manual gearbox. Now, Volkswagen claim that it's capable of up to 68.8 miles per gallon and emitting 108 grams per kilometre of CO2 emissions. Now, in theory, that means that I could drive these 674 odd miles from the Carbuyer test track here in Surrey all the way up to John O'Groats at the tip of Scotland on 1 tank of fuel. If the base 113 brake horsepower diesel engine isn't enough for you, the powerful 148 brake horsepower costs more but is still capable of up to 62.8 miles per gallon with CO2 emissions of 118 grams per kilometre. Most buyers are likely to go for a Golf with a petrol engine, and the entry-level 108 brake horsepower 1 litre petrol is actually a great choice, especially if you mainly use your car around town. A 1.5 litre petrol with either 127 or 148 brake horsepower is available too, for those who want that extra power. So what are our deal makers and deal breakers for the latest Golf? It's still a Golf, and it still looks like a Golf. It's good to drive and feel secure and comfortable whether you're driving around town or on the motorway. All of the engines available are economical and powerful, and there's one to suit virtually everybody. No physical buttons. All the new tech inside the Golf is great, but an old-fashioned dial or button can make some essential functions easier to use. It feels like Volkswagen has spent all of its money on the Golf technology and had only a little bit left for nicer materials inside. The new Golf costs nearly the same as the latest Audi A3, which feels more luxurious and more stylish. So the new Golf is now more advanced than ever, and it still remains a very nice car to drive thanks to the engines that are some of the best in its class and the secure and confidence-inspiring handling. I think it's safe to say that the new model has taken Golf into the digital age, even though they have done some cost cutting in the interior, and I don't think the touchscreen control is going to be for everybody, but it remains a lovely car, very sophisticated, and one that a lot of people are going to want to buy. If you want to know more about the Golf's rival, then why not watch our review of the Audi A3 or the Family Hatchbacks playlist. If you like this video, then please subscribe to the channel, give us a thumbs up, and thank you for watching.